Hey, how's it going? This is Ed Lee for Heights of Gaming, and today I'm going to talk about the three major misconceptions that people have about the game store business. These three misconceptions really stem from a recurring theme, which is that when people think about the business, they don't think about it like an owner; they think about it as like a customer. So you'll see how this actually is a recurring theme with each instance that I talk about. The first one is that when I interview people for my store, right, employees, and I'll ask them, what do you think is the most profitable aspect of this business? Without fail, their answer is that they think that um, running events like tournaments and things like that is profitable for the store. They think that's actually the most profitable thing for the store. They are absolutely wrong. Events are not profitable at all, and I'll get into the reasons why. First of all, let's say that most of your events, your weekly events are probably going to be small. Let's say 8 to 16 players, right? So let's say that I have 16 players playing in the store tournament. So that's going to be 4 rounds. That's about 4 hours plus maybe a final playoffs. It's going to be maybe 5 hours, maybe even 6 hours. If you calculate people coming in late, possible deck registration, just registering people into the tournament, pairings, time between rounds, overtime, it could be 5 or 6 hours. That's a significant portion of time. Those players will be asking you for rulings, things like that. The idea is that by having an event, people will need certain cards before the event and you'll be able to sell them, hopefully at a decent markup. That, however, is not the case. People will find other ways. They will either just make do with the deck they have, or they will, buy from other players who are able to sell to them cheaper because they don't have the same amount of costs that you do. And a lot of players sometimes what happens is that they will they're playing politics and they want to be friends with the other players, so they might hook them up with a special deal or even just let them borrow the card for that day, and hopefully later on they can get something in return. But what happens is that that cuts you out of the deal, and it's no good. Also, the idea is that you can make money off concessions. And when I asked my you know potential employees to identify how why they think that events are profitable, they never talk about the concessions. They're just like, a lot of people are in the store, so they must be spending money on something, and they cannot be specific about what they're spending money on. But really your better margin thing is like selling sodas and snacks and things of that nature. But the thing is that your customers, when you identify, especially for Yu-Gi-Oh players, right? They don't have as much disposable income. So the thing is that they will go outside somewhere else, Chinese food store, Chinese restaurant, or they'll go to, the local deli and buy the goods at a cheaper price. And they'll want to leave anyways because they want to sell each other cards and engage in business that really shouldn't be allowed within your store. So they'll just do that somewhere else. And what happens, it causes a lot more traffic through your store of people that are not really doing business with your store, and it costs you time and energy that could be devoted towards more profitable ventures, such as just marketing or just actually selling products, devising marketing schemes, making a newsletter, things like that. It's no good. Another thing that should really be clear, uh, you know, that should be indicated that this is not profitable is that when you look at the big guys, Toys R Us and Walmart, right? They don't do events at their stores. Toys R Us used to have Yu-Gi-Oh events at their stores, like and Konami basically and Upper Deck, who they were had a distribution deal with at the time, they were actually bribing Toys R Us by giving them special unique cards that players could not receive anywhere else. And they were bribing them by giving them special exclusive products. But even despite that, Toys R Us said, this is just so unprofitable for us. We just want to get rid of it. Oh well, too bad. So I talked about the an average event where like 8 to 16 players. Let's say you get 16 players, 16 times 10. Let's say you have $10 entry. Usually with Yu-Gi-Oh players, it's difficult to get a $10 entry. With Magic players, it's a little bit easier. They're usually older, have more disposable income, so it's a better crowd. And in the end of my business, I really focused on selling towards Magic the Gathering players because it was more profitable crowd to deal with. But the Yu-Gi-Oh players, let's say that it's a $10 entry. They're not going to call for $10 every week for any sustained amount of time. But they do that, and that's $160 in your pocket. And then what's the prize payout that they're going to want? They're going to usually want, about $160 worth of prize payout. You could have like $100 cash prize payout, things like that. But the players will begrudge you every dollar that you make that they don't get cut in on. So, oh well, and that's just the reality of the particular of that particular business. So, um, events are just not profitable. They also attract a lot of other people who don't even want to. The thing is that what happens is that you'll do a tournament like maybe like let's say 3-4 weeks in a row, and then there'll be like a certain percentage, maybe like 25% of the players that get eliminated within the first 2 rounds, and they see this and they don't want to play anymore, but they want to come and hang out with the rest of the players. I get that, and what happens is they don't want to enter the tournaments anymore, but they still want to come and hang out. So you have a bunch of people coming to hang out in your store, making a mess, asking you questions with no intent of buying, and just basically costing your business money but not generating money in return. It's not a good scene. So maybe they'll get maybe $100 on the birthday and they'll blow at your store, but to service them every week, it's just not worth it, and they don't get that. But I'm telling you as a business owner, if you're doing the math right now, or just do it for yourself, why would I ever turn away money? I, I like money, that's God's truth. So that's the first thing about events. Let's talk about the second one, which is card singles. A lot of people come in and they're used to trading cards with other players, stuff like that, and they feel like oh, I made $1 on this trade, whatever, and they feel good about that, and they think they're good about that. They think that's a special skill of theirs, and they think that they could somehow translate that into being a successful store owner. Honestly, single cards suck, and I'll tell you right now why. So the thing is that most of the cards are going to sell for under $1, and anything that sells under $1, usually I would say, let's say that takes about 10 minutes to, you get a box of cards that someone trades in, right? And you take the card in, you have to put it into a system where it's sorted so you can recall the card. You recall the card, and to make the sale, let's say it takes overall 10 minutes, and the card sells for $1. So you could sell 6 cards in an hour, once you calculate all the other factors in. So you make $6 an hour. That's not even minimum wage. That's really bad. If you don't mind making less than minimum wage, sure, selling dollar single cards is great, but otherwise it's horrible. Another thing is that okay, so usually for each quarter, right, because these companies are corporations, they come out with a quarterly report. So they're going to have every quarter. There's usually going to be a booster box. There's going to be some kind of like a smaller package box type thing, either a special edition or a fat pack, what those things are called in those industries, for a Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic the Gathering respectively, with a price point of $10 to $30. A smaller price point so that people can afford it. It's still some sealed package, so they are getting some kind of value there. Or they can buy the booster packs for usually about $4 each. So those are the 3 usual things that come out every quarter. New packages that are generating new sales. So that's only 3 SKUs you got to deal with. So let's say that the booster box, right, and these things can go up in value. Let's say that for Yu-Gi-Oh, the box price is usually around $60. For Magic the Gathering, it's usually around $100. Now, if that box all of a sudden sells out and it's very hard to get, or it's in very high demand, those box prices can go up, maybe even double the price. But usually it's pretty manageable. You'll see that price go up, and you only have 3 SKUs or 3 product lines you got to work with. But within each booster box, you're going to have probably about 100 individual cards. Those 100 individual cards to manage all those fluctuating prices, and the single cards undergo a lot more fluctuation in prices than the actual boxes or booster boxes, those fat packs, or those decks. It's a lot more work, and that costs more. And it's just not really worth it. Furthermore, card singles, as a store, you have a special in with the manufacturer distributor to get sealed products. However, you do not have a special in to get singles, single cards. The manufacturer distributors do not sell to the stores single cards. There's other ways to get single cards, such as through Magic the Gathering Online, which is something that some stores use, and I'll get into that in another video. But Yu-Gi-Oh, there's no mechanism where you can just get single cards to sell to others, to the kids. So, oh well. So that's just a reality of that. So the thing is that you don't have an advantage against, and the thing is that the players within themselves have an advantage because they don't have to pay for rent. They don't have to, they can even just lend the card to a friend to use for the tournament and then just get the card back later on, which does happen. They will often sell the cards to each other and things like this, and you know, and usually this happens at the first thing I was talking about at the events. You have the event, you're really setting up a basically a flea market for everybody else to come in and use your space to sell cards to each other. You might say, look, don't sell cards in my store. This is a very common mechanism that's used by stores to try to prevent loss. But then what happens if the people just leave your store? They'll leave their, sell the cards to each other right outside the door or in the parking lot, or they'll just go somewhere else to buy food and concessions, which actually would be profitable for your store. But, they basically go somewhere else and buy those concessions somewhere else. They might even they might save money. They might not even save money. They might buy it for the same price, but they just basically leave your store to make these transactions happen. So it's just really, no good. And if you just focus on the higher money cards that are like $10 to $20 and up, just one event or news of another card coming out can completely decimate your whole entire your valuation of your product line. Usually sealed products, it's very difficult for sealed product to go underneath the price that you buy for it at wholesale, but it's very easy for single cards to go beneath the price that you actually bought them for with news of a re-release of a card, or, in either a deck or in a new product line. The price of the card can tank. So it's much more dangerous and much more volatile, and I really don't like messing with that. The third one is that a lot of people think that buying from the manufacturer will be somehow cheaper than buying from the distributor, but they're actually incorrect. The thing is that the distributor has the infrastructure to really handle distribution to stores and things like that, and the manufacturer does not. The manufacturer is responsible for design, marketing, and rules enforcement, as in terms of like how stores sell products and things like that. They're not really dealing with distribution. That's what distributors are there for. So distributors can actually, through their efficiencies, offer you these boxes at a lower price. Usually to get these lower prices, you have to buy in enough quantity. I usually bought in quantities of 20, 30 cases. That was pretty respectable quantity of merchandise to buy, and I was able to negotiate better prices for myself. So yeah, those are the three misconceptions that I think are really widespread within the industry, and now you know better. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and I'll make some videos to try to answer all of your questions about the industry. And I hope you had a good time, and please subscribe, and there you go. Have a good one.